Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter and welcome to my video on Monstie 101, Advanced Tips for Monster and Egg Hatching. These are all the different tips and tricks and all the different data that I've figured out after my 120 to 140 hours or so of gameplay in Monster Hunter Stories 3. One good note here is that you don't really need to know all this in order to just play the game. If you ever get stuck, just go into a cave at night, kill some barrel bomb cats with Korra, and levels alone will allow you to push through most stuff in the game. But this is really fun if you want to get more detailed and really understand the mechanics of what's going on behind the scenes. Of course, I must say that this is just testing data of mine, so maybe I might be wrong on a few things, maybe things will become changed later or become more clear, but I just wanted to share sort of these findings with you. And of course, the most important fact, which the game does not have, is just how well you like a monster. If you like its color, then go ahead and make that color. If you like that monster, use that monster. If you like their skill, use it. It's the most important factor when it comes to what you use in your team. You could probably beat the last boss and everything using a team of Velocidromes if you really wanted to, if you buff them right. So I would say, yeah, fun factor is the most important thing. So don't let anybody tell you that you're using a subpar monster if you love it. So moving on to monsters, there's only a few things that you cannot change on a monster when it's hatched. Other than that, this game is super free and that they let you customize it later. The most important one here is tendency. This is hidden away on the monster skill sort of sheets where it talks about all of its stats. But this is decided not when you collect the egg, but when you hatch it. So you could take like 3 or 4 eggs of a monster, save your game, open them up, see which ones you get, and if you don't like it, you could just go back to title screen, reload, and try again. But the tendencies are actually quite important. We've got 2 of them. One is for how they use stamina and also how they decide what skill. This is all about what your monster decides to do on its own when you're not commanding it, which can be quite important. I know the game does give a small kinship gauge boost if you let them decide what they're going to do, but it's not that big, so I wouldn't consider that really a consideration here. So for stamina tendencies, this is basically the monster's going to choose, do I want to use stamina, or do I want to save up for a bigger skill, or do I want to make sure that I have, a good amount of stamina in stock just in case. So we've got cautious, average, and proactive. For the cautious one, you'll notice like monsters, maybe you got one, you command it to do a big attack, and then every other turn it seems like it's doing second wind. It's catching its breath, it's trying to increase its stamina, and it's just not being very active. That is often the cautious type. I hate it, but maybe other people like it, but cautious monsters tend to just sort of do second wind, which is kind of a pain. Average is fine, and then proactive means that they're more than willing to drop down to low stamina in order to pull off a skill. Now for skill tendencies, this will pretty much decide the lottery of what is the monster going to choose to do when I'm just call it and I'm not giving it instructions. We've got attack, which is just your basic attacks, hindrance, and support. Now attack could be anywhere from their basic attack if they don't have a lot of stamina. So this is actually really good if you're going in for like the head-to-head play. If you know that you've got a monster with low stamina so it can't do a skill, but you know that let's say a speed attack is coming, you can call in your technical monster which has an attack tendency on skills, and it'll most likely do a technical attack and win the head-to-head, which is nice. Or if you want to go for more debuff plays like poisoning and stuff like that, we have hindrance, and then we have support, which is basically buffs and stuff like that. So go ahead and just choose the tendencies that you want depending on how you think you want to play the monster. Again, you can't change these later, but that also means because this is the only thing you can't change, you could always just make a new monster with the tendency you want and move over all the skills onto that new monster. The next thing in which the game doesn't really go into too much detail on is the dual element system, which I love. They brought this back from Stories 1, but in this one, so let's say you have a native fire monster like this, Dread Queen Rathian. If you go ahead and you just put her into a region, get her up to S rank, and it's a region that's fire, it'll have like a double fire. It just means that she won't have a different color, and she'll just be, her basic great default self. What I do notice with the dual elements is that when you assign them into a cave in which they come out with another element, I do notice that it's not that they're getting that element like overall. Like you would think intuitively, okay, if I make a Rathian who is also a thunder type, then they will be more, stronger against thunder attacks, right? Like they'll have better defense, and that's not the case at all. This is basically just a 10% damage boost when using skills of that element. So if you have a monster that you want to activate, let's say thunder skills because you want, let's say, an egg bonus, which we'll cover later, or you just want to be able to cover all the different elements, and so you want someone to be able to swing both, this will allow you to get more damage out of those skills. But as you can see here with the Dread Queen, she was weak to thunder, and she's even weaker to thunder when you make her a dual element. This will be the case whether or not you make her into, dual element with water, dragon, it doesn't matter. So basically dual elements will sort of expose the weakness of a monster a little bit more than normal, but will give them more flexibility and power when using a second skill element. So great. I don't consider it like super important to do dual elements. I think the most important factor here is to decide by color. You can go into your monster encyclopedia and toggle to see all the colors, and if you like the color, then go for it. But if you don't like the color, don't feel like you're really missing out too much if you don't go dual element. Now, this one is probably a given, but I'm going to include it here anyways. But why do you want to get a monster up to S rank in its region habitat before you go and you gather the eggs? The reason is that once it gets to S rank, it can sort of be hatched with, or will be hatched with, an increased version of its second unique skill. So for example, it's the Savage Fireball for Rathalos. Once you get later in the game and you're able to hatch them, you can get the Savage Fireball Plus if you have it as an S rank in that region. There's 3 different types of changes. They're all straight up buffs, so they're always worth getting. Either the skill will get an additional 10 power or 10 Wyvern Fell, or it'll be 5 stamina less to do, which is actually really nice because stamina is a very important currency later in the game, and really where I think a lot of the nuanced play comes out here. So always make sure that you're getting the S rank skills. If you have a monster that you hatch that you love, you don't want to change, but it didn't have that S rank skill, just get it from another monster and throw it on it. It's totally fine. There's no difference to the base stats of a monster, whether or not they were S rank or not, from a gold egg or a purple egg, doesn't matter. It just is talking about the different skill genes that it has, so you can always move this over to your favorite monster and not worry about it. Now, the big thing I find to really think about when it comes to team composition and having fun min-maxing your monsters and figuring out how to do them is if you look at the monster pages in the back, there's a thing called the stat trends. It says trends, but it's not really a trend. It's more just the stats. This will tell you all the different base stats that a monster has in its distribution. After this, we'll talk about the environmental stat boost, which you can do to sort of augment either, filling out a weak spot, or like in the case here with Espinas, giving it more HP so that it can be a max rated HP monster. Basically what I've noticed with the skill distribution between just these 4 major stats of HP, attack, speed, and defense is that the very beginning monsters in the game have about 17 to 20 points of distribution. Mid-tier about 20-22, top tier 23-25. Once you get into the end game, the very end game monsters will have anywhere from 26 to 29 points, and then there's just a few monsters in the game, but like the Elder Dragons would have about 31 points of distribution. Now that's not to say that that's a huge difference, so I would say anything that's like 20 or above is totally usable. It all depends on the monster, its stamina recovery, whether you like it, stuff like that. But it just shows that, this is how the stat point distribution is how they make the monsters as you progress in the game, like just stronger, right? Like they have more HP or they have better attack and stuff like that. It's because of these base stats. Now, lower tier monsters are still very important to collect even in the end game because they may not have the end game sort of base stats, but they're great for progression, obviously. But they always have skills that are like really good attack or really good effects, but have a low stamina cost. So they're fantastic for just farming for really good skills that you can give your other monsters Again, they really balanced it well enough so that there's always reasons to grab eggs from monsters. Also, I want to note here that lower tier monsters, if you grab like a purple, like super rare one, again, the egg glows is about the skills that it'll have on it, not its base stats. Stuff like health boost XP or XL and all these other ones that are like the end game skills can still come from the lower tier monster eggs. So if you get a purple egg from a cave, it doesn't really matter whether you like the monster or not. It's usually worth keeping because you might get a skill that you can want to just, throw onto a dummy monster to hold on to, and give it to your other monsters later in the game. It's quite nice. Now, we know our stats now for the Midas monsters. There's ways to augment that, which is going to be your regional powers. When you start out in the game, it's going to be like one stat increase. For example, in Azuria, you'll have like a +1 star of max HP, and that's it. Each one of these stars represents about 5%. So a 3 stars of max HP in Azuria will give your monster a starting base HP that is 15% higher than normal, which is great. The way that you get it from 1 star to 3 is by simply unlocking each of the regions by defeating the Pharaoh monster there so that you can unlock the camp. So once you have all 4 camps in Azuria, you'll have, 3 stars max HP, which is a 15% increase. Later on in the game, once you're able to defeat the Elder Dragon that is from that area, that is what will unlock that second row. And it's just like all or nothing. So once you defeat, Namiel in the first area, you'll get that extra row, which is plus 15% of attack for any egg in that region, which is awesome. Now, because we can do stuff like the excursions, you never have to rehatch monsters. So if you have monsters and you've, leveled up Azuria, go ahead and just take those tickets for the excursions, and you can sort of have them do an excursion to their birth town, and they'll get the more increased stat bonus versus, what it was when they were born. So what are these stat increases? As I was saying, it's about 5% for each star. So for max HP and defense, you're looking at a maximum of 15% boost for those. And for stamina recovery, it's 5 stamina per turn. So if you get a monster that, recovers, let's say 5 stamina per turn naturally, they'll recover 10 if you have stamina recovery 3-star bonus. My opinion, and this is only my opinion, is that these are percentage based. So the higher the number is at the get-go, the more benefit you're going to get from it. So I prefer the max HP and defense because I'm not someone who really cares that deeply about the stamina recovery micromanagement. But if you are, it's certainly a good choice. But I like to play into the strengths of the monsters and not try to fix their weakness. I don't want to take, a Diablos or something that has low defense and high attack and then try to buff up its defense because, face it, it's not going to be a really good defensive monster, and you can swap out monsters every turn. So just let the monsters be great at what they're at. So go ahead and, further increase its HP for survivability or its attack so it can hit harder. But that's just how I like to play. Another thing to consider here is that, unlike attack and defense, we do have passive genes for health boost, which are all 5% increments. So health boost S is a 5% health increase, and all the way up to like a health boost L is 15%. This stacks on top of the region power. So if you've got, let's say, Azuria, and you've given them, the max HP boost is 15%, and then you're adding in another 15% or 20% from the XL, they go on top of each other. So you'll get like a maximum of 38% more HP, which I find quite significant, especially in the end game. So again, the max HP areas, the first and the third one, I love it. The other thing you'll notice when you hatch an egg is that each region has a set of egg skills. Now, I find the wording of this to be a little weird because it says like awakened and then there's required genes. To me, I kind of thought it meant like, okay, when you hatch them, they either have it or they don't. And so I would constantly hatch eggs trying to get ones that had an awakened version of a skill. But basically it's not like that at all. This just means at the current bingo one, do I have, let's say, if I have a dragon panel and I have a water panel, it will give it the egg power perseverance plus. As you're seeing in the example here, as long as I have one non-elemental panel, I'll get EX resistance plus, which is I think resistance to non-elemental attack. And then, of course, the really strong egg skill here, Muster Forces Plus, requires a power panel, fire panel, and an ice panel. So it's going to make it much harder for you to get like 5 bingos. But if you're willing to go that diverse, it will boost your kinship gauge to the max one time after losing a heart. This is an incredibly powerful skill. Basically, if you get wiped out, you can immediately go in and you get a full kinship gauge, which is awesome. Just being born from the region, though, you'll have the basic S, A, B, and whatever like normal skills on the left here. But later, as you start customizing your skills, you might want to look into these ones on the right and see which ones you want to activate. You don't always have to activate all of them because, again, bingos might be really important. But definitely look into it because the difference is significant. For example, there's one which is called Resonance, which is your starting bonus to your kinship gauge. And Resonance, just the normal one, will give you a plus 10. So let's say you have a monster that has a starting kinship of 5, then you'll start with 15, which is nice. But the Resonance Plus is a 30-point increase. So you'll start the battle with a third of your kinship gauge already built up, which is awesome. And of course, for both the egg skills and the regional stats, you can change them anytime later in the game by using excursions. These are just consumable items that you'll be able to purchase in mass later on. And then you can go ahead and just have it grab in different bonuses from different regions. Now, let's say I have my Kuluyaku here. If I do not have a Kuluyaku in one of the Azuria regions, like one of the 4 areas, and it's not S rank, then you'll notice it'll hold on to its egg skills like Muster Forces or Perseverance, but it will not get the option for me to then swap out any number of those for, let's say, Battle Thirst or Hardiness. I have to have that monster in that area so that I can have that available. If you do have those available, though, you'll get a selection choice of all 6, and you can choose which one you want to put on your Kuluyaku. So you can really customize these to your heart's content. But of course, the most important one here, I think, is the stat increases. So if you want, you can choose, let's say I had an attack and stamina recovery monster, and I just want to give him max HP and attack boost. You can do that and just choose to hold on to your current egg skills. You don't have to change them. But just so you know, each region has 5 different egg skills that you can get when you have a... I've had it with an A rank, but definitely S rank eggs. If you have the monster built up in that region, they'll come out with one of these egg skills, which of course you can take off and give it to another monster. So they're really fun to just collect and have in your arsenal to choose from. And the deciding factor which decides what the egg skill it's going to be is going to be the monster's rating. For the very first one, you'll notice if it's a 2-star or 3-star rated monster, it'll get the first egg skill. If it is a subspecies of a 3-star monster, which is like, if it's a Gypsaros, this would be a purple Gypsaros. So anything that has that kind of like adjective above it. Or a 4-star monster, that'll get the second skill. A 5-star rating or a 4-star subspecies will get the third. 6-star or 5-star subspecies will get the 5th. And then the 7-star monsters, which would be like your Elder Dragons or your Deviants. For example, even in the demo, we had access to the Dread Queen Rathian. That's a 7-star rated monster, so we were able to get and abuse some of these extra egg skills. But this will hopefully demystify how those came out, how to get them, how to farm them, and what they all do. So for the Ice region, starting out with the initial one, you'll get Icebind, which is just a nice single target, which does water damage and inflicts speed down, has good power. Second one will be a passive Icebreaker, which will grant Wyvernfell up to the user. This is not quite as good as the Water region one, which you'll see coming up here a little bit later. Rime Wind, which will grant speed up to all allies, which is really nice for if you want to make sure you're attacking first. Frozen Clump, which is a power skill here, just 20 stamina. Lower power than like the Icebind, but much higher Wyvernfell, so really good for stunning or locking out monsters. Same ideal, it does 1 single target ice damage and inflicts speed down. And then finally, if you have a 7-star monster in an ice region, it can have Snow Mantle, which is an expensive boost of 40 stamina, but it gives you critical up, dodge up, and speed up to the user. Makes them very fast to move, very hard to hit. Yeah, very nice. Water regen, you might have noticed this in the demo. We were using this with the purple Gypsyros. The reason is being the first skill here for the regular Gypsyros would be Surface Break. This is just single target water damage that does Wyvern Soul defense down to the monster, which is nice. But it was that second one, because it's a 3-star subspecies, is the egg skill called Composure. This grants Wyvern Fell up to all allies, and each use increases the effect. What that means is that when you do it the first time, you'll get Wyvern Fell up small. If it's still active when you do it again, you'll get Wyvern Fell up medium, then large, and stuff like that. So basically, you would have a purple Gypsyros, you'd have them keeping up Composure, using tail slams, and then if you were using a hammer like with Sweet Spot, it made stun locking the Brachydios really easy. Well, maybe not really easy, but doable. Meaning that it would whiff on all of its big AoEs because we were able to get it down to its blue stagger gauge quite easily. Then moving on, we've got Raging Rapid, which is just a nice, powerful single attack water one. We've got Crash Wave, which is just a very nice 30 stamina, 240 power attack that says deals water damage to random enemies. One note here, the dragon version of this is just insanely good. But this will do, when it says random enemies, if there's only one enemy, it'll do multiple hits to them. So if you got a monster that is weak to water, Crash Wave will do huge damage to it. And then finally, if you have the 7-star monster in a water region, you'll get Lunar Cry, which removes all buffs from all enemies. I like to use this on my monster called Meat Shield, which is a Gravios who's built only for being able to tank hits. And I like to call him in when I know that a big attack is coming, or if an attack is coming and I don't know how to counter it. Or if the monsters are all buffed themselves, I'll just call them in and do a Lunar Cry and just strip them of all their buffs. So, very strong skill. For Fire region, we've got Red Mastery, which will grant critical up to all your allies and it's stackable. Heat Shimmer, which is dodge up and is stackable. Fire Form, which is attack up to everybody and stackable. Flame Star, which increases the damage dealt by allies on this turn, but the user does not attack. So obviously they don't attack, you're just doing a buff here. But this is really good if you notice that your ally and their monster are about to do a big attack. You can call in a monster to do Flame Star, and that will make them do more damage. And then finally we've got Royal Decree, which is fire damage to a single enemy and chance to inflict burn. High stamina, but high power as well. For Thunder regions, we've got Volt Arms, which grants ailment inflict upgrade up to all allies. It's good if you're using like Oakden or one of the other companions that does status ailments, but if you're just trying to do it for your monster, personally I would just put like inflict status up L on them or something. The second one here is Charge Up. This will give regenerate and stamina regen up to all allies, which helps with survivability. Third one here is Bolt Flash, which is just a nice AoE thunder attack. Then we've got Thunderclap. This is great for when you just want to quickly stun a monster or finish them off. It's 35 stamina, 90 power thunder to a single target that ignores defense, so it's very consistent in its damage, and it has a chance to strike first. And then finally we've got Adamant Rage, which will greatly increase damage dealt by this user on the next turn. Now notice that it does have 25 stamina, so this is a case where if you have a monster with really good stamina regen, or if it already has a lot of regen anyways, or like a lot of stamina, you could do this if you know that you're setting up for a huge attack the next turn. For Dragon regions, we've got Finish Fang, which is just a nice single target attack. You'll notice with this one, it's got a pretty high cost of 45 stamina, but does really good damage with 120. 4-star monsters or the subspecies for 3 stars will give you Dragon Gate. Grants negate elements to all allies. Yeah, that's a really good egg skill. So another good reason to grab, a few of the lower tier monsters and just farm them, beef them up, and so you can get this egg skill and just hold on to it because there's plenty of cases where this is a very good skill to have. Then we've got Dragon Roar, which is a power attack one, which is a single target one, which inflicts greater damage the lower the user's HP is. The next one, which is probably my favorite egg skill in the entire game, is Dragon Feller. This will deal dragon damage to random enemies. It's 360 power, 50 stamina, so it's pretty expensive, but this is one where it hits like 5 times and it goes boom, 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 boom for like 300, 300, 300, 300, 300. Especially when you're up against like Elder Dragons or something like that. So Dragon Feather is a staple on like my Stygian Zenogre. Like I use it all the time. It's great. And then the final one, E Dominance, I'm assuming here means elemental dominance, but I'm not sure. Or enemy dominance. This will inflict attack down and defense down on all enemies, and it's stackable. So this is really great if you've got a monster who just wants to sit there and start debuffing the enemies so that they're not doing a lot of damage, especially if you're up against, let's say, you know, a boss that's more than one monster at the same time. You know, being able to do an AoE attack down and defense down is quite powerful. And last but certainly not least is the non-elemental regions. That's the sort of like gray color dot that you get. So for the first skill, we got Circle Stance, which will grant defense up to all allies and is stackable. Then we have Spirit Charge, which will restore all allies' stamina by 20%. Then we've got Nature Heal, which will recover all allies' HP by 50%. It's almost like a free life powder. Then we've got Ardor Shard, which is very powerful but very expensive. This takes an entire stamina gauge. So 100 stamina, but it will restore a single heart to an ally, which is nice. And then finally we have, and this was abused in the demo quite a bit, which is Solar Cry, which is 30 stamina, and what it does is just simply fill up the kinship gauge by quite a bit. So for example, when we were all taking on Espinas in the demo, Espinas started out sleeping, so we had several turns where if we didn't attack it, we didn't get countered. And what they would, we would do would just use Pet on our monster to gain some more kinship gauge, and then we would just have Rathian spamming Solar Cry, so that we can max out 1 or 2 of our Rathians, put them sort of in reserves for times when we needed it. But yeah, it's just a great way to charge up for a kinship attack when you have a safe turn. So awesome skill. Anyways, hopefully that gives you guys a nice overview of sort of what to think about at a high level when you're talking about monsters. Beyond that, dual elements and then the skills, ranks, and trends are all very interesting and fun to play with. So hopefully this gives you a good reference point to go in and experiment and find your favorite composition. I'd love to hear about some of the strategies and comps that you guys have, so let me know in the comments. Hope you guys are having as much fun as I am, and until next time, happy egg hunting.